Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope Podcast with your host, Joseph Oliver. This is episode 11 of the Urban Scope Podcast. Today, I want to touch briefly on Shaq's comments in regards to Caitlin Clark. Shaq, he told the media he was on a podcast and they asked him about Caitlin Clark, and he said she's a great player, but let's hold our breaks up. Let her earn her keep. Let her put the work in and let her get her accolades, and let's crown her then. Um, this article or these statements didn't make it around like I thought they would, because everybody's praising Caitlin Clark, and if you say anything bad about Caitlin Clark, it's going to be magnified in the media. Maybe it's because the NFL season has started, and that has something to do with how it kind of flew under the radar. But I want to discuss those comments and just give context to those comments. Shaquille O'Neal has never shied away from criticism of players, whether he felt they were good, but we need to draw back and let them put some years in, because greatness is not done in 1 year. Greatness is done with consistency over years, decade, close to a decade or so, unless you have an untimely demise or something like that, and we're able to just see a trajectory and assume what you could have been. What we do a lot of times. So Shaq has a history of criticizing players because, like I said, he doesn't go with the crowd, the in crowd. He's his own man. He says what on his mind, and he doesn't draw back from that. And if you don't like it, he's like, oh well. A lot of times players think he's hating on them or just being bitter, the old bitter player. But I don't think so. I think he wants everyone to be great, and I think he doesn't want you to be content. So a lot of times when someone's constantly criticizing you or constantly giving you constructive criticism, which I think is constructive criticism, they just want you to be better, because if they didn't, they would just say, oh, okay, that's cool, and just keep going along their way. But he's actually giving constructive criticism. I remember he did it with Donovan Mitchell when he was in Utah. They always had a good team, win 50 plus games, 45, 50 plus games. But when they get into the playoffs, it never seemed to work out. So Shaq was kind of scolding Donovan Mitchell for not being great enough yet. He said, you're not great yet. And, Donovan Mitchell, you can kind of tell he was kind of sour about it and kind of pouted about it. But, I think in the long run, he'll learn from it and being able to say Shaq was trying to look out for me, because there's another level that you can get to. There are a lot of great players and good players in the league, but there's not that many. It's a few great ones that can actually overcome adversity and overcome obstacles to get to the championship or exceed expectations, which a lot of players don't do that. But like I said, Shaq was one of those players that exceeded expectations. A lot of people say he left a lot on the table because he wasn't dedicated as he should be. But I think that's a part of his reasoning for scolding or criticizing a lot of these players. He don't want to see them do what he did. If he can go back in time, but he would have worked a lot harder, ate better, did what he did a lot better than he did. But he was very dominant, and he's considered one of the best big men in the league. So when he talks about Caitlin Clark, he's coming from a place of don't be complacent, put the work in, get better, and then get your championships, get your accolades, your MVPs, your All Stars, first team, awards and stuff like that, and and just put the work in, because a lot of people crown people too early, and sometimes that pressure, people fold from it. So he just wants you to be great and continue to do what you're doing. But over the years, they felt he was criticizing people unfairly, like a Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee, which, it can happen sometimes. People are human. They take personal shots. They feel personally about people. Like, he's one of those type of people that if you're not good and you're making all this money, similar to Charles Barkley, if you're making all this money, he's not going to be favorable. He's going to be like, man, you're just stealing money. You're not playing good. You're not dedicating yourself to the sport. He treats you like a bomb, so to speak. Which, it comes with the territory. Everyone's not always going to like you. Not everyone's going to be happy that you made it to where you made it. But at the same time, he played the sport at a high level. He's been through it all. He, played with Shaq, D Wade, LeBron, Paul Pierce. He played some of the best players ever. So he knows what it takes to be great, even his own journey of being great. Um, he was taller and stronger than everyone else, but he had the footwork and mentality and just the skill to exceed in the NBA. Caitlin Clark is the same way. I think she's a better passer than she is a shooter. In college basketball, she was very dominant from the three. They compared her to Steph. I don't look at her as Steph anymore. I look at her like a Jason Kidd type, but she can shoot a lot better than Jason Kidd, of course. But her passing, she has the passing gift of a LeBron James or something like that. She does turn the ball over a lot, so I can't compare her to like a Chris Paul. The turnovers, she definitely has to work on those. I don't think Shaq really addressed that. Like I said, he's coming from a big man perspective, so I don't think he addressed that all the way. He just kind of just talked about her in general as a player, and being able to be great. You have to put more time in. He probably would say the same thing about Angel Reese, who he considers as his niece, because she went to LSU like him. He would say the same thing about her if they asked. To my knowledge, they didn't ask him about Angel Reese, but I'm pretty sure he would have said the same thing. She's a great rebounder, but she still has more to go. She still has to work on her scoring. She has to work on her defense more, just footwork and things like that. But, for the most part, I think Shaq was coming from a genuine place. He even kind of stepped back a couple days later and just said, just praised her and, just said she's going to be a great player. I don't know if somebody got in his ear, but I doubt it. Shaq is not one of those people you can control. Um, but, as far as, that goes, a lot of players, they did the same thing with LeBron. They said, LeBron was the high school phenom, the best player to come out of high school. But when he got to the league, people gave him a hard time and said, the Skip Baylesses and other pundits and players like a Paul Pierce and stuff like that say, hey, you got to put the work in. You got to come through. You got to go through us. You got to be able to win championships. You got to be able to get past, these great teams. And you got to be able to figure it out. So I think that's what Shaq wanted from Caitlin Clark. So, um, that's the time I have for today. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. See you next time.